I don't like being that guy who's just like needs to put out the dramatic tweet or the dramatic start of the video or anything, especially for people that I've never met. But we did lose one of the all-time greats of any sport this week. Willie Howard Mays. Like, genuinely, probably your most concrete, solid, all-around case for the greatest baseball player ever. Died at the age of 93. Tough news. Obviously, 93 is a hell of a life.
Yeah.
So it's nothing stunning, but that stunk. That stunk to hear. I know you're a big historian, Braden. You're big into Willie Mays. 24 years? I've got the numbers in front of me somewhere here. 24 years. Actually played in the Negro Leagues, which is kind of crazy to think about. Someone that's been in the news recently. Obviously, the Negro League stats being included in the Hall of Fame. This guy played there. He was still alive as of a few days ago. That's nuts. 24-time All-Star. Now, a couple of those years in the late 50s had 2 All-Star selections per year. So take that into consideration. But 24 All-Stars, man. Rookie of the Year, 2-time MVP, 12-time Gold Glove winner, 4-time home run leader, hit 4 in a game once in 61. Was, by some publication, which I don't have in front of me, was the player of the decade in the 50s and the 60s. That's incredible. Somehow only got 95% of the vote. 660 home runs, 3,300 hits, 1,900 RBI. Like, just one of the best 5-tool player ever to play the game for me. 5 full tools. He had them all. And is probably a little underappreciated because, and I get baseball's different from other sports in this respect, but he didn't win 10 championships.
Right.
He won one. Right? Just one in 54.
70 years ago.
Yeah. So, and also there's not a lot of people that played with him that are around to talk about him. So things like that get lost. And so I heard this a lot over the last couple of years of, Barry Bonds is the GOAT. And like you'd have a tough time arguing it, right? I personally think Ted Williams might be the greatest hitter that ever lived, even though he said so. But you look at all 5 tools, no one's got him like Willie Mays. Nobody. And a hell of a run, man, 93 years old. Yeah. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good run, especially, growing up at the time he did. It wasn't easy. It's not easy for people to get to the age of 93. Shared a birthday with my dad, by the way. Oh. How about that? And a cool stat, made his Negro Leagues debut and his MLB debut on the same date, or same day. May 25th, 1948 for Birmingham, May 25th, 1951 for the Giants. Braden, what is your impression of the great Willie Mays?
I'm looking here.
I know you're a history guy.
Yeah.
How much have you heard about Willie Mays?
I know he's one of the greatest hitters of all time. He had that famous catch in the World Series.
World Series, yep.
54. And I'm looking at his. He made the All-Star team 19 years in a row.
Yeah.
That's an insane.
That's pretty good, man.
That's a pretty good run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what you got.
That's what I got.
It's pretty iconic, man. You ever seen the Bobby Thompson home run? The Giants win the pennant. The Giants win the pennant.
No.
Oh, god damn, man. Are you just sneaky not a baseball guy that I
not
didn't know
really.
about? Thought you were a big Astros guy.
I am. Astros.
That's it? You're so, this amazes me because you're such a history guy.
Baseball has just not been a sport.
So much. You can talk music history going back 60 years. You can talk movie history going back 50 years. But just not baseball.
Not really baseball.
Well, let me teach you a little bit about Willie Mays, man, that I haven't already. Did I mention he hit 660 home runs?
Oh, yes,
with 350 stolen bases? Just about. Incredible stat. I'm going to pull up his baseball reference.
I'm looking at it right now.
Oh, yes. I mean, I love doing similarity scores on there for guys who I think are underrated, but I think the Willie Mays ones speak for themselves, right? He does have his number retired with the Mets, which is kind of funny to me. He went back his last 2 years when he was in his 40s to go and play for the Mets back in New York. Made an all-star team in 73. I think that was a little bit of a sentimental thing. But those years were kind of sad to see him playing for the Mets. Let's see his similarity scores. Somewhere here.
Well, number 1 is Frank Robinson.
Frank Robinson, Alex Rodriguez, Ken Griffey Jr., Albert Pujols, Henry Aaron, Mel Ott, Barry Bonds, Stan Musial, Rafi Palmeiro, and Dave Winfield. Is that all right with you, Braden?
It sounds like a pretty good.
All but 4 of those guys are Hall of Famers. All but 3 of those who are eligible are Hall of Famers. The only ones that are not are obviously Palmeiro, Bonds, and Rodriguez for other reasons. Mm-hmm. But all Hall of Fame players. I mean, he was just a monster. And the advanced stats that we didn't know at the time, he dominated, man. His total zone runs as a center fielder, so basically runs saved by the ground that he covers. He was first in the National League in that 5 times. 5 times was first in the league in double plays turned as an outfielder. His range factor led the league twice. Again, things they didn't know back then, but look at them now. They're unbelievable, right? Mm-hmm. So I say that to say you see the counting numbers on his offensive stats, right? The 660 home runs, the 3,300 hits, and all that. But he was just as good a fielder. Double plays turned as a center fielder, man. He did it. He led the league in it 5 times. One year he had 9 double plays as a center fielder.
9, wow.
Good, come on, dude. That's awesome. His value stats, win probability added, led the National League in it 6 times. Situational wins added, led the league 5 times. His power speed index, which is, I mean, just essentially his whole career, he led the National League in it 8 times. 8 times. I know this is nerdy numbers here, but this just goes to show you how complete a player he was. His adjusted OPS led the league in it 7 times. Home runs, like I already mentioned, 4 times. On base plus slugging, that's OPS for you kids at home. He led in it 5 times. Slugging percentage 5 times. Offensive WAR 7 times. Defensive WAR twice. Wins above replacement, which is regular WAR. 9 times. WAR amongst position players 10 times. He's unbelievable. Like, you want to talk about Babe Ruth, Hank Aaron, Ted Williams, Barry Bonds, any of those position players, you have to discuss Willie Mays. He's right there. Good golly, Miss Molly. Won the MVP as a 34-year-old. And one of the great ambassadors of the game, too. Like, has stuck around the game ever since. Barry Bonds' godfather. Number 24 retired, like I said, 2 different places. The impact that he had on baseball was incredible. And we talk about the era that he comes into. Obviously, Jackie Robinson had broken the color barrier.
Right.
And it kind of gets lost in the fold, not to take away from Jackie Robinson, but it kind of gets lost in the fold the next couple of years of guys. Mm-hmm. Where there's still not a lot of teams that are fully integrated, the last of which came in 1959, and there were a couple in the year before as well. So we're talking about a decade where there are still all-white teams. There's obviously Jim Crow. There's no shortage of racism going on. Absolutely. It's not like Jackie just came in and it all ended. Teams with quotas, I'm sure. There were quotas in other sports of, you can only have 3 or 4 black guys on your team, you know? And Willie is thrown right into that. So all the stuff that we saw for Jackie Robinson and Larry Doby and Satchel Paige coming in, absolutely. Willie dealt with that too, and did it he was the first like really elite black player. Obviously, Robinson was a great player, Hall of Famer. Larry Doby was still a pretty good player.
Hank Aaron was
and then we
around
got
that
Roy
time,
Campanella,
right?
Hank Aaron coming right around the same time. Those two guys, all of a sudden, the white public had to deal with the fact that these black guys were the face
best
of
players
the sport.
in the game. Yeah.
And that could not have been easy. And Mays doesn't get remembered like that as much, and I think he should, because he always had the smile on his face and everything. He didn't talk about it a lot. He is a transcendent player, and again, a great ambassador, someone who was always around the game, the face of the Giants franchise for a franchise that's 130 years old, 140 years old, whatever they are.
Mm-hmm.
He is the dude. And if you're doing a Mount Rushmore of all-time baseball players, he's got to be on there. We lost a great one, man. It stinks. It stinks.
Mm-hmm.
It's my dad's favorite player growing up because they shared a birthday, which is tough to do, to get Bill to have a favorite player outside of a Boston team.
Yeah.
So
I was curious, just looking at his salaries.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously this was 50, 60 years ago.
Yeah, he did also serve in the Korean War, by the way. I do want to mention
he
that. That's a lost art in sports these days, guys that serve in war in the middle of their career. Yeah.
So for most of his time, he made less than $100,000 per year.
Yeah.
73 is, his final 2 years.
Imagine living in San Francisco off that today.
Yeah.
Oof, right on.
He finished with the Mets making $165,000, which I don't know what that would be in today's money, but
I mean, still not a ton. Still not obviously anywhere near what they make today. But yeah, inflation would be different. But they just didn't get paid a lot. These guys, most of them, maybe not Willie, because he was probably on the higher end back then.
Yeah.
But a lot of these guys worked jobs in the off season, in the wintertime. Look at these first couple years for him. 51, Giants go to the World Series. He wins the Rookie of the Year after coming up in late May. In 52, his season gets cut off early to serve in the war. 53, he's in the war. 54, he comes back, MVP, and the Giants win the World Series. Like, just that. Those first 3 seasons, man. He is dominant right away. Finishes in the top 5 of the MVP the next year as well. And then 2 of the next 3 years, he finishes top 5 in the MVP. I mean, you look at the MVP votings here, okay? In 54, he wins it.
Mm-hmm.
So then it goes 4th, 17th, which just seems like an anomaly because he played the full season. 4th, 2nd, 6th, 3rd, 6th, 2nd, 5th, 6th, 1, 3. Like in the next decade plus. That is unbelievable peak. That's what I look for. I mean, obviously there was no debate whether Willie was going to the Hall of Fame or not. That's what I look for when guys go in the Hall of Fame, those top 10 MVP finishes, even if they have, not as long a career as someone else. Willie had both of those. He was always at the top of his league, even if the Giants were good or not, and was also had the longevity as well. It's incredible. R.I.P. Willie Mays, man.
R.I.P.
One of the all-time greats. I don't like getting overly romantic about baseball like most baseball nerds do, but that's a sad day for baseball. That's really too bad.
We are Rogue Media Sports.